So, as someone who has lived through serious mental health struggles, I've come to understand that quality of life isn't just about ticking boxes, like having a roof over your head or money in the bank. Although those things help, for me, quality of life means feeling like I have a reason to wake up in the morning, having people around me who genuinely care, and knowing I'm safe and supported no matter what kind of day I'm having. After my suicide attempt in 2019, I was left with life-changing injuries, and the journey since then has completely changed how I view what makes life worth living. Things like connection, purpose, feeling seen and heard, these become more important than ever. I found that having a sense of meaning, even in small everyday moments, is what contributes to my quality of life now. Whether it's helping others, sharing my story, or seeing how my experience might make a difference to someone else, those things have helped me build a life where I feel valued. Being able to walk again after being told I would never walk, or getting to advocate for others like me, those wins, big or small, add to my quality of life. Even on hard days, the support I get from people around me and the progress I've made remind me how far I've come and that I'm not alone. I don't feel like I had the quality of life when I was in hospital because not just because of what I've done, but because of how I was treated in there. It wasn't a quality of life. I didn't want to get up in the morning. Like after my accident, I still wanted to die for 2 years after my accident. I didn't want to wash. I didn't want to do my hair. I didn't want to put the best trainers on. Like I always tried to look neat and tidy, but I didn't want to do that. I wasn't because my brain wasn't focused and I was thinking about death, but because the way I was treated, like the way I was spoken to by staff, I just felt worthless. So I wanted to give up. But if they gave me a bit of encouragement and said something positive, even like something like, it's a lovely day out there, why don't we go for a walk later for half an hour around the block? That might have perked up my spirits and made me think, oh, that's a better quality of life I could have. I could be doing this all the time, like if I stick to it and if the right people are around me. But because I didn't get that, I just gave up. And it ain't until I came out of hospital and had a support worker that listened to me and took note and paid attention to me, understood who I was, how I speak, etc., and worked out who I am as a person. That we had a great connection, me and him. His name was Dave, and like, he understood me so good. It was amazing, and like after that, my quality of life went right up, and I had the best quality of life you can think of. I was doing everything you can imagine. Like up until this day, like I'm still doing things that I want to do and that I wanted to do years ago. Even I didn't have a quality of life in hospital, but I've got a quality of life now because someone listened to me and gave me hope.
At that point, he was seeing the people he thought of as his peers progressing in life when he wasn't. He just went into a real mental health slump. And got a friend whose son's the same age, and she says when her son was diagnosed, the psychiatrist said to her, late teens, early 20s, watch out, he'll have a mental health crisis. And nobody said that to us, but all of the families, our young person has experienced that. And we're like, is it better to have that warning, or is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? But anyway, it completely, I hadn't heard that, and it completely took me aback. I didn't recognize it for what it was. I thought he was just being lazy and selfish, so I reacted really badly and actually made it worse and put more pressure on him. But he'd actually gone from somebody who travelled independently to college twice a week. He went and stayed overnight at college, and he had to get a bus, a train, and another bus. Sometimes the trains were cancelled and there were replacement buses or taxis. He coped with all of that for a year. But when this hit, he couldn't, he became agoraphobic. He could always walk to the end of our road with our little Jack Russell Terrier who he worshipped, but he couldn't even get in the car to go out. He definitely couldn't get on a bus, even with us. He literally became locked in his room for the best part of a year, other than that daily dog walk. And he just couldn't think about trying to do anything. And it was just such a horrible experience that we just went from that. We went, right, let's forget about any aspirations or independence or anything like that. We literally were like, if everybody who wakes up in the morning is still alive by bedtime, then that's a successful day. And that's all we're aiming to do, and just take as much pressure away as we could. He worked really hard at his own pace when he was ready. So we had to go, right, you hold the car keys in your hand and we'll just sit in the car on the drive literally for a minute at first and build up. And then when he felt a bit better, he did actually get support from a mental health worker from the council. And that was absolutely brilliant. She was just the best thing in the world. Calm, sensible, down to earth, not overly dithery. She didn't do what I'm doing, which is talk in a long-winded way that he absolutely can't stand. She just was like, what are we going to do today? And listened to him. And so with her help, he got back to going out and about and being independent. And that was absolutely brilliant. And she did it in about 8 weeks or something. And then, of course, what happened was he was better. So he wasn't entitled to that support anymore. So that stopped, which to some extent that was fine. That's what it's for, but it just did feel a bit sad. And then we toddled on for a few years. A couple of years ago, we decided to try college again. And he's quite clever and he understands the subject, but he's not good at executive functioning. He can't organise himself. And he won't ask for help because I think he feels a lot of shame about it. So I thought maybe social care could give him a bit of help. And that was when I rang up. So this would have been maybe 2022, 2023. Rang up knowing the answer was going to be no, but thinking, I'll just ask, could he have some support with this? And the response on the phone was, can he wash and dress himself? And I said, yes, there's some ways he needs support with that. Can he cook a meal? Yes, but there's some ways he needs support with it. And the lady on the phone said to me, no, social care is just for washing and dressing and feeding yourself. And I did say, oh, I thought there was stuff in the Care Act about having a habitable home and relationships and work. She went, no, social care is just eating and washing and dressing. So again, I thought I'm not going to push. I know what the answer's going to be. And even if the process is going to be horrible. So we didn't do it. And he dropped out of college after about 6 weeks, maybe. So again, we just went, well, that's okay. But the big news in our family is Bill got a job a month ago with help from Durham Enable, and he's like a changed man. And he's absolutely loving it.
So I'm a health and wellbeing PA with Jack, and I mostly concentrate on Jack's overall wellbeing. If there's ever a situation, I'm always thinking about Jack first. So in the workplace, it could be that Jack needs a breather, and I always ask her, do you need a breather? We'll go outside, we'll do this, we'll do that.
Your job, focusing on well-being across all aspects of my care plan, is the more important to me, because not only are you focused on self-care and doing all the things that maybe perhaps a social worker doesn't think of when they plan for somebody to have bathing time. It's like the things that make me feel 48 still.
Yeah, it's not even just bathing, it could be doing your nails, that could lift your mood a little bit.
This isn't, it's like sometimes it's the basics of having time for somebody to help you with a sanitary towel because you've got a period. It's seeing the whole person, isn't it?
What does well-being mean for you?
For me, ultimately, it's if my mental well-being's not great, then that affects my physical well-being, and then that'll affect everything else in my life. And I think if you don't have the basics of your well-being, then the rest is, there's no point looking at that, because you're not going to be whole in yourself, and you're not going to have the same passion and energy for everything else. So I think it's really important. I had a previous care job as a support worker, and that job felt very emotionless, I want to say, because we were always pressured to get stuff done on a time limit. So it was bath, change the bed, make their tea, that's it. And then you'd never get any time to actually sit and talk and check in with them properly. It felt inhumane.
What impact did that have on you?
I felt like I couldn't do my job properly. It wasn't very nice. I felt sorry for the people I was looking after, because in my head, I was the only person that they were seeing all day. For them snippets of an hour, 2 hours, trying to get as many things done, because the people above didn't consider the fact that maybe that person just wants their nails doing, or they want to just sit and have a cuppa and have a chat. I was always pressured to get on to the next person. So it just felt very, I don't want to say uncaring, because I was still caring, but it wasn't to the best of my ability with the time I had and the restrictions.
What was the impact on the people that you were supporting?
I felt like they didn't trust me enough to have a relationship, like a working relationship. So sometimes I'd pop in and they wouldn't say a word. They didn't feel like they were comfortable enough to talk. And it was just really sad to see. It was more about their environment they were in than their actual mental well-being. I feel like they'd have been so much happier, even if they had a bit of a messy house, to sacrifice that time to sit and have a cuppa.
What was the first bit of training you ever had to do when you started to work here?
Jack's story. And I think that was the most impactful bit of training, because it didn't feel organisational, it felt personal.
Yeah.
And it gave me a real insight to your mind and how your well-being is very prioritised. Because the way you put the story was so impactful that it always is in the back of my mind.
It's time for a person who draws on care and support to actually be able to sit and explain to people, yes, this is my social worker's care and support plan. However, here is the plan I have in my head of how we can put that into action. So actually, I took ownership of implementing the well-being principle through planning my own care and support. We can thrive if the conditions are right within our lives. It could lead to our workforce not being depleted or knackered or not wanting to give up on work, and we could retain staff for longer because we could create the conditions within our own homes to nurture talent and commitment like Shannon's got.
One thing that always sticks in my head whenever I'm with Jack, or if it's anything to do with Jack, a quote you've always said, if it's about me, don't do it without me. So don't make the decision if it's about you, not without you. And that always stays in my head.
Nothing about me without me.